Let's get it on with our news review. Now, we'll be joined shortly by Dr. Kwame Asante of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. But wherever you are, thank you for making the time to join us. Let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Togo opens border. That's on page 16. You know, we've had our own issues in terms of reopening our borders as far as, economic activity and more are concerned, opening our borders to travel. Land borders, so to speak, but other West African neighbors have not necessarily done so. Well, we now hear that Togo has opened its side of the border with Ghana as of midnight yesterday. This comes more than 50 days after Ghana had reopened its land borders. Now, the Daily Graphic visited some of the border towns, including Aflao, Akanu, and Kpoglu Segbe border to ascertain how business was picking up in those places. Now, though the border has been opened, both sides of the frontier remained desolate with little human movement and commercial activities across the border. Of course, we know that now that both sides have started it will take some time before it goes back to what it was before. I remember being at the border some years back. It was a hub of activity. And on the back of COVID-19 and the shutdowns, well, only time will tell how things will go and when things will return to the levels they were at before. Punished developer for pulling down Bulgarian embassy building, Seoul Inquirer recommends. That story as well on page 16 makes for some interesting reading. And some have been saying we shouldn't shield anybody, party member or not, whether with the MPP or not, who may be complicit in this entire razing of that building belonging to the Bulgarian embassy. So, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, has written to the Attorney General to advise him, and Daily Graphic, advise as a verb, not as a noun. This should not be found in our. Advise him on sanctions to be imposed on a private developer who demolished a building at the Bulgarian embassy. According to him, the recommendation of the Seoul Inquirer, who looked into the demolition, had some legal implications, and so it was important to get advice from the AG. Now, in a 149-page report, the Seoul Inquirer Justice Kwesi Anto Oforiatta recommended that the private developer Jojo Hagan be sanctioned and be made to compensate the Bulgarian embassy. A statement from Mr. Janapo last Monday said the ministry had accepted in full the recommendations of the Inquirer. So we await now the implementation of all of this. But giving you a bit of a background, if you missed the story, the Bulgarian embassy located at Kakramadu Road, plot number 10, East Cantonment in Accra, was demolished by a private developer in 2017. And there are matters that followed through from there. NACOC seizes drugs at KIA where? That is on page 26 of the paper. And this major one, Achamata Forest intact. Jinapo assures nation peripheries revert to Owu family. Before I get into that one, let me say a very good morning to Dr. Kwame Asante, who joins us for our conversation. Doc, welcome aboard. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for making the time to be with us. I hope you're
sorry for a little delay. Yeah.
We totally understand. We're grateful. Let's start with the Achamata Forest saga. Now, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abdullahi Jinapo, has dismissed reports making the rounds that the forest reserve is being sold. He said the Achamata Forest would not be sold and remained as it was, adding that the government would continue to reforest and develop it into a true forest reserve to serve Accra and the people of Ghana. But all of this has come up because of an executive instrument. Following the publication of the Forests, that is Cessation of Forest Reserve Instrument 2022, EI 144. There have been reports, especially on social media, among other outlets, that the Achamata Forest was being sold. But as of now, we're told that there are going to be some reversals. The peripheries of the family, the Owu family, from which the state got that patch of land, the peripheries will be returned to them, but the rest of it remains a forest reserve. Your quick reaction, I'm sure you followed the media interactions and all. How do you react to this?
Yes, I am happy to hear this, that government is making frantic effort to make sure that the forest is kept and reserved for better purposes. It is good. If you go to certain countries, you find even at the heart of the city forest, and sometimes even game. We can mention places such as Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and all that. So I don't see why Ghana cannot emulate the same, example and develop to the best. My worry, though, is that sometimes the way we acquire these things create a lot of problems that later the original owners will come back and then come and demand things that are due them. We pray and hope that our leaders will take note of these things, that they should do the proper acquisition so that families are not disadvantaged. Those who give their lands for such projects for the state are not disadvantaged. And of course, government also must protect, forests that are preserved for game and all that. These things are a source of revenue for the state. And if we are crying for money, this is one means by which we can develop and make it better for the state to have that. Check Kenya. You see at the city, you have the game, the Kenya, park. Beautiful. You are there, you take pictures, and you go and then see things for yourself. Why can't Ghana take an example like that and then emulate and develop it for our people?
So definitely something we have to preserve. And there are those who have said that, if we were to turn that into another concrete jungle, for example, looking at the expanse of it, it would open the Jowlus and the Abelinkpes and other parts to flooding and the rest. So this is something that we really ought to look at cautiously. And thankfully, the rhetoric coming from government is that it is going to be maintained. So ecological gains there. Let's quickly get into this story, and I am linking it to the terrorist threat. We've heard from the National Security Ministry and what they say about a very imminent terrorist threat, how we all ought to be very, very, very vigilant. We have seen very disturbing videos, unconfirmed, of people spilling over into Togo, and I'm talking about terrorists, Boko Haram and others. We have heard from a deputy defense minister who has said that all is not well. I'm linking that to the story on page 25 of the Daily Graphic. Chief Imam advises youth against acts of terrorism. And the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Osman Nuh Sharabutu, has advised the youth not to allow themselves to be used to cause violence in their communities in the midst of rising cases of terrorism in the West African sub-region. Quote, "Do not allow characters who would come to you in the cloak and gown of Muslim clerics to incite you into acts of extremism and violence," he said. He also called on Muslim clerics to educate their students in the makaranta or madrasas on the dangers of terrorists and terrorism. Continuing from there, he says, Muslim teachers must be careful in how they educate the populace, particularly students, in respect of messages and interpretations that engender or give rise to violent extremism and radicalism. That is the chief imam. Your thoughts on this and the caution as well that churches, mosques, and other places of worship ought to be more vigilant because the terrorist threat is right at our doorstep.
I'm happy to hear this thing from the national imam because time and again, extremists hide behind religious groups and then inflict pain, unnecessary pain on nationals of states. All right. So I'm happy to hear this, especially cautioning teachers of Islam, clerics, and all that about the message that they send out. People hide sometimes behind Islam and do things that are not Islamic. Islam is for peace forever. So anybody who teaches you saying that you can hide behind some message that is given to you to inflict pain on innocent people, you are not a Muslim. And that is exactly what the chief imam said. I salute him for that message. I hope it will go down, not only for Muslims, for every youth, because they are vulnerable. The little problem here and there, people advise them wrongly, that take arms, disturb your state. Look, that will not inure to their benefit. And I'm happy that the chief imam has set the ball rolling. Other religious groups should come on board and also preach the same message, and that There's no point destroying a state that one day you want to build. There's no point at all. I commend the security people, even though they have come out that, look, all is not well. And it's an honest admission. I salute them. But I know that in spite of all the difficulties that they face over the years, they've been able to keep our state intact. It is my hope and prayer that they continue to protect us. But let us also protect them and protect the state by volunteering information to them. It is our, moral and legal duty that as citizens, we don't only enjoy from the states, but we also make our quota, contribute our quota to the development of this country. Let us all support the police, volunteer information, expose evil people in the country so that we'll make this place safe. But I know that the security people are on top of their game, but we must assist them. We must assist them.
We definitely must assist them. I have a curious question very quickly. We've reopened our land borders, and now the terrorist threat is even more potent. How do you see it as one who dabbles in international politics? When we've reopened, it's just about 50 days since we reopened our borders, and now the terrorist threat is so potent. What would you suggest in that regard?
You saw the criticisms that were leveled against government for closing the borders. People's livelihoods were cut because of that exercise and a whole lot.
Right.
And
so
then
the economic situation came to the fore, but now we have a security situation on our hands.
Yes. Government said, slow down, let us find solution. And now that they've opened, I know that the security people have done their homework. They knew that we're going to have difficulties like that. But trust you, or trust me, you know that these people are on top of their game. I know that they will be able to face the difficulties. But as I've said already, we need to support them because there's no point that we could close the borders forever. We needed to open the borders to allow economic transactions to take place and also build up the solid economy for the people of this country. So for me, it's not a wrong decision that government took. Let us remember that government reflected upon it for a very long time. And then I'm sure that the security also people give the government the green light. We all have to make sure that we put our hands on the deck and then assist and make security system work better. Without our support, I'm not sure the security people will succeed. So let us all know that it is not the responsibility of government or security people alone. We owe it a duty to ourselves and our state that we are ready and forever ready to support them to make this country stable.
Let's continue on the security tangent. The Ghanaian Times this morning. National security warns public to be vigilant of terrorist threats, and following a letter cautioning churches, places of worship, this is what was said. We are making a strong appeal for heightened vigilance in areas of mass gatherings, especially at public places of entertainment and worship, such as churches and mosques. The employment of guards, security, gadgets, lighting of the areas surrounding public places would all help, but nothing beats the vigilance of each of us individuals taking personal responsibility and looking out for each other or one another. And that's the point, Doc, isn't it? We must be looking out. We must move from these people are strangers. Okay, they're in our community. We must all be vigilant, because that person you see acting strangely, that person who may even be in your community, you've never seen the person before. All of a sudden, the person is there. That person who drops some backpack somewhere in some shopping mall or whatever. Let's be curious, because these could very well be terrorists, and we have to stay on guard. Doc, you want to come in with something?
I believe in that because vigilance is the price of liberty. We can never be free if we ourselves are not vigilant. We need to be vigilant. We need to support the police with information.
Right.
We need to make sure that we question people who we think that they are suspicious characters within our community. Sometimes we relax on these things, but it's time that we stood up and do the right things.
Let's stay on that front. In Koranza, youth attack police over death of 28-year-old trader. I'm sure you've seen the footage. This is turning into another ejra. It is escalating. This morning we interacted with our colleague Ohiming Tewia, and it doesn't appear that this matter is going to die a natural death, though there were interventions by the police, reinforcements had to be called in. But if you asked me, I would say that we've not learned much. We saw what happened in Nigeria, how matters escalated. Now, there are injuries, one person at least suspected dead, people being treated after even Akwesi Arnold had lost his life. I would have thought that on the back of what the youth had said, that we are going to, we're not going to take this lying down, and if something is not done soon, we're going to demonstrate and all of that. There would have been more in terms of security, boosting security in the community. No, the police were repelled, some had to run away before there were reinforcements. When you look at what is happening in Koranza, do you agree with me that it's reminiscent of Idra and that maybe we've not learned much?
Yes, my good brother. I'll be glad if you can give me a gist of what happened. Yesterday, I was very busy. I didn't follow the news. Just a gist of it, and then I can comment on it.
So the youth had threatened that they would spill onto the streets to demonstrate. That actually happened. They blocked roads, and then they vandalized the municipal police station. Lots of vehicles. I mean, you can't see your TV now because you're interacting with me, but the municipal police station was vandalized. Vehicles there had their windscreens, windshields, and all of that smashed. You can see, for those of you watching, some of them, burning tires on the streets and all of that. I mean, almost exactly the picture we saw in Idra. And it took the intervention of reinforcements to restore calm. But that is just calm for now. The people want justice on the back of what has happened to this young man that now, per a statement from the police, supposedly was dabbling in armed robbery, with the people saying, no, that is not true. In fact, this gentleman, we are told, had contracted a 5,000 Ghana cedi loan just for his business. So a lot of back and forth and information that did not come timeously from the police, and now we find ourselves where we are. Doc.
It's a very sad story, because this is not the first time. We hear this thing more often. So I would have thought that we'll do everything possible to stem the tide. But unfortunately, events have taken a different turn, and we are in this state. Going forward, I think that if we want to exercise our rights as people of this country, which we are enjoined by the Constitution to do so, we must also bear in mind that we do that within the framework of the law. Once we cross the line, we are likely to have problems on our hand. The other issue, or the other bit, is also that the police must also know that they owe the state a duty of protection, that they protect us. So they must also be professionals and tread cautiously. Anytime they have such clashes, you end up having such casualties, and I'm not happy we are having this type of situation all the time. I believe that the police must have quick and then regular professional education on these matters, how to handle groups of that nature, so that at the end of the day we save ourselves the trouble of having properties destroyed, human lives taken away, and all that. It will not help anybody. I know that from time to time the police walk their people through a lot of training and all that. It should be a continuous effort, and an effort aimed at changing the behavior, or the strengthening the professional behavior of the police and all that. At the moment, let us see how the facts will come out, and then let's see how government and the police authorities will deal with that. But I will urge all the parties to exercise the highest modicum of restraint, so that we can have an amicable solution that will bring justice to the doorstep of everybody who is injured or who is hurt.
Well, let's move on from there. And Ghana home to 476,400 migrants. That's the IOM declaring, and it says the country is now an origin, transit, and destination for migrants. And this too is crucial especially as we talk about the terrorist threat, because as we open up more to migrants, we are also opening ourselves up to some of these terrorist activities. The Daily Guide, by and large, reflects other stories that we've seen, so I'll just set it aside. Republic Press newspaper, headmaster and staff of A Basic School beg for classrooms. Trouble brews in PNC as Apasara blames Mahama for party's woes. And the Dufour hits the ground running as Mahama announces interest to lead the NDC. So it looks as though, as far as the NDC is concerned, John Dramani Mahama, former president, and Dr. Kwabena Dufour, former governor, Bank of Ghana, are going to be, well, front runners. We also know that Kwadwo Owusu, if I got his name right, the former mayor of Kumasi, has expressed interest about wading into that as well. We'll see how it goes. But Ghana on high alert as national security warns of terrorist attacks and Kranza on fire. Cuts down number of ministers. I want your take on this, Doc. Cuts down number of ministers. Kwabena Japan charges government. Story on page 6. And Kwabena Ejeye Japan, a former general secretary of the NPP, has condemned unequivocally the practice of appointing innumerable ministers to positions in government. Not only is this practice, which has become the new normal for governments in this country, unnecessary, it is also contributing actively to the high cost of running the government machinery, Mr. Japan said on Asempa FM's Ekosi Sen yesterday. Submitting his views on the repeal of Article 71, Mr. Japan noted that indeed there were critical issues that bugged him. For instance, the cost of running government machinery. There's so much more to the story. You can grab a copy of Republic Press, turn to page 6. But from what Kwabena says, is it the way we should go as a country, Doc?
Certainly so. But I'm happy it's coming from Mr. Japan, because his government under President Kufuor also was accused of large government size, not as large as we have now, and then issue of special assistant. At that time, that was more critical. It is true that you don't need great numbers to govern any state. It is not true. A few people who have what it takes to have their vision beyond their region or their ethnic group are the people you need them. People with a skill, people with knowledge, people with expertise, people with vision, and people who have this country at heart are those we want, and few people can do that. Let us remember that we have the bureaucracy, which is there to support all political office holders, irrespective of their background. Even if you have never studied anything regarding governance, they will assist you. So what is the point of getting more into the system where we need to pay them, we need to support them in terms of allowances and all that? It is a waste. You recall when this government took office and people criticized the government heavily. The government was very impatient that let us wait, we'll see the results. We all saw the results, and we saw the need to reduce the size. In recent times, we also saw when e-levy were struggling to get it through parliament. You saw a government position that they will cut down the size of government. That should not go away. They must make conscious efforts to cut down the size of government, and then we make some savings, because there's absolutely no point. But let us remember also that politicians do this as a way of rewarding party boys and foot soldiers. But we can tell them that in difficult times like this, you can't risk giving more appointment to people just to satisfy the interests of your party people. Once you do that, and people are also in difficult economic conditions, they keep quiet and vote you out of office. It is a time for government to reflect on this and then take this example seriously and work with it. Otherwise, they are likely to have, consequence. When people vote, they vote them out of office.
Let's wrap this paper with two interesting stories, and one that has been on my mind for a while. This one on page 9 of Republic Press. Correct legal discrepancy that allows children to consent to sex at age 16. Lawyer to Parliament. Now, Nana Yamfua Amwasichi, a legal practitioner, has admonished Parliament to consider amending part of the law which allows a child the right to consent to sex at age 16. This, she said, would help address the high rate of defilement cases being recorded in the country and reduce unwanted teenage pregnancy. So what does the law say? Act 29, that is Ghana's Criminal Offences Act 1960, pegs the age of sexual consent at 16 years, the minimum age at which an individual is considered legally old enough to consent to participate in any sexual activity. However, a child is said to have been defiled when they have achieved or attained the age of 16 years and below. So you see where the discrepancy lies. You can consent at age 16, but you are said to have been defiled if you are 16 and below. So where is it's a fine line. Again, the country's Children's Act and the Criminal Procedures Act Code, 1998, that is Act 30, set the legal age for marriage at 18. So why not just peg it all at 18? That is basically what is happening here. Do you have any quick reaction to that?
Yes. I think I support that call because there's a contradiction in there. Why don't you put all at 18 so that by 18 you are matured enough to take such an important decision in your life, and then a decision that can also cause you. So if you are matured enough to take that decision, you'll be very careful and in handling some of these things very well. So I support the call, but Parliament must act quickly because we are getting a lot of cases in this direction, defilement and all that. Once we are able to do a good job here, we'll be able to save the young people who are going to lead this country forever.
The next story is also sex related, and I'm becoming a bit, I don't even know what word to use. It's becoming mind-boggling. Men in Ghana, what is happening? I mean, so 45-year-old man slashes 56-year-old girlfriend with cutlass for denying him sex. And this is becoming rampant. Today, acid has been splashed on somebody, boyfriend, girlfriend related. Tomorrow, the person has been slashed. What is wrong with us? The Ebradunkwa Police Command in the Central Region is reportedly holding a 45-year-old man, simply identified as Bob, for slashing his 56-year-old girlfriend with a cutlass multiple times for denying him sex. The victim, Ikea Badua, is currently receiving treatment at the Ebradunkwa Government Hospital in the Central Region. According to starfm.com.gh, the bloody incident occurred at Abakrampa on Sunday, May 15, 2022, at around 1:30 p.m. Recently, there's this training institution in Cape Coast. A lady was brutally murdered, part of her body taken out. I don't want to go into the gory details. Her boyfriend has been arrested. I mean, I'm seeing too many of these, and I'm wondering, what is wrong with us? Doc?
There are a lot of factors, and it's a worrying situation. But one of the things that I've seen in this regard is lack of socialization, proper socialization process. We start with the family education about the do's and don'ts so that children develop and become the best for society. More often than not, we have abandoned this and allow peers to come in and educate and then, misinform our youth and all that. It is also worrying that we are getting these stories almost all the time. And it appears to me that the state is not doing much in this direction. I am aware that the courts have not, abandoned their duty. They put people before court and these things are dealt with. But once we get reoccurrence of this, then it creates the impression that all is not well. We should be able to strengthen socialization process where the process of inculcating values in people are strengthened at the family level. We go on to other agencies such as the school, the churches, the mosques. We strengthen them so that by the time you grow, you are well made of the norms and values of our society. You will not deviate. It is true that you have some individuals who will deviate from some of these things, but we'll be able to reduce the incidence to the barest minimum. We need to do that. The churches, the religious groups, society must help us in this direction because it is becoming one too many.
To wrap the entire conversation, two quick stories. The Finder, talking of society, state, society, failing children. And that is according to Bright Appiah, Executive Director, Child Rights International. And the point is that 2,791 have reported human rights infractions to Shraj in 2021 alone. Child Rights blames the lack of social and political commitment. And to wrap the BNFT this morning, ECG's debt to IPPs hits $900 million. The independent power producers. Two quick stories to wrap. You can pick one and share your thoughts on it, Doc.
Yeah, when you look at issue of children being abused, human rights of children trampled with impunity and all that, it tells you that, look, we are not getting it right. We were among the first countries in the world to jump into children's law and whatnot. If you follow stories, you hear abuse of children, attack on children, and these vulnerable groups don't get the necessary support that they deserve from the state. It is a very sorry story. I recall when I was the president of International Journalists for Children's Rights, we encountered a lot of these cases, and we still have them persisting. I want to believe that this time around, we want to make it even a manifesto issue so that we can pin down political parties and see their commitment towards some of these things. Because, look, you can never build any solid society when you have human rights abuses, not only against women and children, but even the whole society. Look at the recent report about the state, the U.S. State Department on human rights violations and all this. If you read from 1992, you come across gory tales of some of these violations. I think the institutions that are tasked to do this thing must sit up and work. Otherwise, we as citizens must demand from politicians through manifesto so that when they don't execute or implement them, we throw them out, simply put.
Thank you, Doc, for joining us for another beautiful morning. And of course, we pray for Ghana in these times for the very best. Wish you the best of the day, sir.
I'm grateful.
All right. And that's how we sew it up for the news review. But up next, we bring you sports. There's going to be talk about Kumasi Asante Kotoko, and we'll bring you sporting details from the foreign front as well. Stay.